So what's the first thing Jesus says to his church as it's being shaken to its foundations? Let me tell you about myself, who you're with. This is very much like a psalm that I love. And I really love it now because I've been a grandpa now for almost 3 months. Psalm 131. My heart is not proud, O Lord. My eyes are not haughty. I do not concern myself with great matters, bus schedules, or things too wonderful for me. But I've stilled and quieted my soul like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child is my soul within me. O Israel, put your trust in the Lord, for with the Lord is unfailing love. He himself will redeem us. Well, I know about weaned children. Well, I do, because I've raised 4. But my grandchild is not weaned yet. Let me tell you about his life. It's basically concerned with what he can get in his mouth and then what comes out the other end. And if you've been around little babies, now, I know Cornelius, that's his name. We're trying to figure a shorter way to say it, but he absolutely doesn't care what's going on. He doesn't care how tired his mommy is. He doesn't care how beleaguered and bedraggled she is. When he wants to eat, and he demands to be fed. Now, all he thinks is his mommy is an extension of his needs. But David in his psalm says, I'm like a weaned child with his mother. I'm not making any more demands. I'm not insisting that she rush to my desires because I know my mom. And I know she's good. And I know when the time is right, she'll take care of me. Same message. The where, the what, the when, and the why are not nearly as important as the who. So what do you need to know when you're shaken? Well, you might want to know why. You probably won't ever get that question answered. Well, you might want to know when's it going to be over. You probably won't get that either. But I guarantee you, you'll get this. You'll get who is involved. Jesus Christ. He's the controlling principle of this book, but of our lives. And he calls himself the faithful witness. The Greek word, as I shared last week, is martyria. It's the word from which we get our word for martyr. It's the standard word for witness in the New Testament. Now, martyr equals witness. Witness equals martyr. Clearly, the New Testament has a robust view of what it means to bear witness. It's more than words. It's words in life. It's words spoken by people who give their lives away. I think it was Mother Teresa who said, preach the gospel using words only if necessary. Well, I have great respect for Mother Teresa, and I think I understand what she's trying to get across. But I want to say, Mother Teresa, words are always necessary. But it's not either or, it's both and. Preach the gospel using words as you pour out the gospel with your life. And Jesus' actions, yes, they were provocative, but it was his words with his provocative actions that got him killed. And so Jesus taught and was the embodiment of this kind of witness. They go together. Mark chapter 10, verses 44 and 45. Whoever wants to be first among you must be the slave of everyone else. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and give his life as a ransom for many. That's martyria. He's pouring out his life. That's how he preached, or that's what he did as he preached. The preaching explained what he was doing. Or Matthew 26, verses 27 and 28. At the Last Supper, he said, he took a cup of wine and gave thanks to God for it. He gave it to them and said, each of you drink from it, for this is my blood, which confirms the covenant between God and his people. And again, when he wants to represent his life, he says, it is poured out as a sacrifice to forgive the sins of many. And the Apostle Paul said, whenever we eat this supper and we pour out this wine, we preach. We proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. So you want to be with Jesus. You want to see his face. Well, this is the price. But not the price as in the price of admission. Like you have to become this kind of witness in order for Jesus to accept you. But price as in if you want to be with Jesus, if you want to see his face, well, this is what it means. You want to hang with the Lord. Well, what's the Lord do? He is a faithful martyria. Faithful witness. And those who travel with a faithful witness will have to do what he does. You may suffer from time to time. It will certainly demand much from you. The hardest thing any of us ever do is to give ourselves away. So, this raises a big question in my mind. Why do people want to follow Jesus if this is what it's about? And I think the answer to that question is they follow Jesus for the same kind of reason that people followed a man in the last century named Ernest Shackleton. You know the name? He was a great explorer of the Antarctic. By the way, the Antarctic is colder than the Arctic. It's a nasty place. Shackleton, famous for his explorations, he ran an ad in a London newspaper. And it read this way: men wanted for hazardous journey. Small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return, doubtful. Little ad. Inquiries poured in. And Shackleton said it seemed as though all the men in Great Britain were determined to accompany us. Now, you need to know a little bit about Shackleton to appreciate what was happening here. Just a couple of stories. On one expedition in 1915, when his ship, the Endurance, was trapped in an ice floe and beginning to break up under the extreme pressure of the ice, Shackleton and his men in the Arctic Ocean got in lifeboats, set up little makeshift sails, and set out across the open sea to a place they thought was on the map called Elephant Island. They got there in just about 5 days, discovered that Elephant Island was only slightly better than the ice floe they'd escaped, so they decided to risk another longer, dangerous, open boat journey to South Georgia Island. They put enough food in their boat to last 4 weeks, because they knew if it took longer than 4 weeks, they would die. They got there in 15 days. This is unimaginable. They sailed through a hurricane that sank a 500-ton steamer. He has a little anecdote about this voyage. He said, I called to the other men that the sky was clearing. And then a moment later, I realized that what I had seen was not a rift in the clouds, but the white crest of an enormous wave. So, why do people sign up for that kind of trip? Well, I think they wanted to experience something that Shackleton said he experienced on the trip. And we're going to get back to Jesus here in just a minute. He said this about his journeys. We had seen God in his splendors, heard the text that nature renders. We had reached the naked soul of man. Brothers and sisters, that's what people signed up for. That's what they wanted. Hardship, danger, they were small prices to pay if it meant they could see something of the splendors of God, hear the voice of nature, and reach the naked soul of man. It was a bargain. They were religious.